Hello and welcome to FinextraTV. I'm Alex Lippic, and kindly joining me today is Keith Redding of Finastra. And we're going to be discussing the evolution of the banking landscape. Keith, absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Alex.
Well, thank you very much for your time. In these discussions, we have been talking a lot about reimagining banking. Keith, I'd love to know, what does Reimagine Banking mean to you specifically? What does it look like?
Well, Reimagine Banking for me is having access to my financial institution 24/7, where my financial institution is able to offer me intuitive products, all right? And it's intuitive products. They know what I want before I know what I want, but they do it in such a way that it's not creepy or Big Brother. So if we think about where financial services has transformed from over the last 20 years or so, if we look back, we went from mainframe computers to mainframe core banking systems to all of a sudden an explosion of a digital world, right? We saw the early introduction of online banking, and then all of a sudden we saw mobile banking. We saw consumers were walking around with 2 mobile phones, and then all of a sudden there were more mobile phones than people. We saw the early introduction of cryptocurrencies, and we saw an explosion of digital banks across Europe and Asia Pacific. So we've gone from being completely mainframe based now into the cloud.
You mentioned a lot of those advancements in technology. I'm going to throw a hypothetical example at you, if I may, Keith. Imagine we have a bank that has successfully adopted that reimagined technology base. How does it use that to its full potential and ensure business success effectively?
Well, I can think of a practical example, right? We've got Tonic Bank, which is the fastest growing digital bank in Asia Pacific, located out in the Philippines. They've gone from practically being a new startup up to 1 million customers. And what I like about their business model is actually taking the mobile phone and putting it in the pockets of their consumers, right? So they know that their target customer is average 27-year-old. So it's really offering their financial services and taking their banking business model and putting it on the mobile device, which is in the consumer's pocket at the end of the day.
So it's all about that ability to adapt as
Absolutely.
well from a business sense. You mentioned what sounds like there's a bright future ahead. How do banks get there?
Well, banks can do it in a number of ways, right? And I'll give you another example. I've seen some of our African customers do complete rip and replace of their entire infrastructure, whether or not it's their core banking systems, their digital channels, right? But I've also seen them plug themselves into a fintech ecosystem and use data and actionable insights, right, to offer their consumers and their customers expanded services.
It does sound like there's a positive future ahead. It sounds like there's a lot going on in terms of development at the moment. Looking forward as best we can, over the next, say, 5 to 10 years, what further changes and developments should we expect within the industry, do you think?
Well, let's talk about the concept of, core banking transformations, right? And we know that, core banking transformations can be quite challenging, right? And if we think about the concept of rip and replace, which is essentially heart surgery, right? And, this is where Finastra differentiates itself and can help our customers differentiate themselves. We've got all the experience. We've done it for more than 50 years. We know where it works well, and we know where it doesn't work well, right? But if you can imagine, right, that a bank or financial institution that doesn't want to replace everything at the same time, and this is where we come in with our strategy, symbiosis strategy. We can work together with financial institutions that if they want to modernize purely deposits, or savings, or loans, or even payments for that matter. It's the coexistence alongside your existing infrastructure, right, without going through that hard surgery or the rip and replace strategy. And that's what we call symbiosis.
Fascinating insight. You mentioned symbiosis. Where specifically does technology sit if we look as best we can into the future for the next 5 to 10 years? What specific developments do you expect to see in that field?
I think the next 5 to 10 years is going to be absolutely electrifying, right? We're going to see the adoption of AI, machine learning, right? And we know that our customers are sitting on massive deposits or, data, right? And the question really is, how do you use that to get the insights, right? To expand into new segments, new territories, new geographies, right? So the future is extremely bright. We also know that regulation is going to continue to play a critical role, right? And banks will need to be compliant. But at the end of the day, this is where the right technology partner with the right technology platform and solutions can fundamentally make a difference. And this is where, Finastra can support its customers.
It does sound like there's a lot of exciting changes and developments happening now and in the future, and it'll be interesting to see how they develop. But in the meantime, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Keith.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it.